There are moments in life when someone enters your world so unexpectedly and so powerfully that the idea of coincidence begins to feel impossible. You can analyze every detail, trace every event, and try to explain how your paths crossed through logic and probability. But somewhere deeper within you, there is a knowing that this encounter was never simply about timing or chance. This person did not just appear in your life. Their arrival created a shift. Something inside you changed the moment your worlds connected. It may have been subtle from the outside, almost invisible to others, but internally, something moved that could never fully return to the way it was before. Even now, as you try to convince yourself that the chapter is finished, as you tell yourself that enough time has passed and you should move forward, there is still a part of you that feels drawn back toward them. Not through desperation, not through attachment, but through a quiet sense of recognition. It feels less like missing someone and more like remembering something your soul already understood. If this message has reached you at this exact moment, perhaps there is a reason. Important realizations often arrive when we are finally ready to understand them. As Carl Jung expressed, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And right now, something within you may be awakening. Something that has been waiting beneath the surface, asking you to pay attention. You may find yourself standing between two opposing emotions. One part of you wants to hold on, while another part tells you to release. One part trusts what you felt, while another questions everything because of what you see in front of you. Silence has a powerful way of creating uncertainty. Distance can make even the strongest connection feel fragile. You may have asked yourself whether you imagined the depth of what happened. Maybe you wondered if you gave meaning to something that was never truly there. But imagination fades when reality tests it. Temporary emotions disappear when time passes. False connections lose their intensity when life moves forward. Yet somehow, this feeling remained. Despite the distance, despite the attempts to disconnect, despite every effort to convince yourself otherwise, something continues to bring you back to the same realization. This person affected you deeply, not in the way the ego desires possession or control, but in the way the soul recognizes transformation. This is not obsession. Obsession creates anxiety, fear, and the constant need for reassurance. What you are experiencing feels different. It is quieter. It exists beneath your thoughts and beyond your expectations. It appears during moments of stillness, through dreams, memories, sudden emotions, and feelings that arrive without explanation. It is the feeling of something unfinished. When you first met this person, something within you responded. It was not only physical attraction or surface-level compatibility. It was something much deeper. A strange familiarity, almost as if your spirit recognized something before your mind could understand it. The conversations may have seemed ordinary, but the energy between you was not ordinary. There was a rare combination of comfort and intensity. You felt safe, yet challenged, calm, yet awakened. And experiences like that leave an imprint. Jung once compared the meeting of two personalities to the reaction between two chemical substances, explaining that when a true reaction occurs, both individuals are changed. And that is what happened here. You were changed. And whether they openly acknowledge it or not, they were changed as well. Connections that transform us are never meaningless. They reveal hidden parts of ourselves. They bring forgotten emotions to the surface. They open doors within us that cannot simply be closed again. Even in separation, even in silence, your presence may still exist within their thoughts. Not everyone processes emotions in the same way. Some people express what they feel immediately. Others hide, withdraw, and attempt to understand their emotions privately. Silence does not always represent a lack of feeling. Sometimes silence is created by feelings that are too overwhelming to process. Your presence may have awakened something in them that they were not prepared to face. Instead of moving closer, they created distance, hoping that space would reduce the intensity of what they felt. But emotions that carry meaning cannot always be escaped. In quiet moments, when distractions disappear, memories return. They may remember conversations you shared. They may remember how understood they felt around you. They may compare the emotional depth they experienced with you to the emptiness they feel elsewhere. And that comparison can be uncomfortable. Their distance may not come from indifference. Sometimes people run from what matters most because it forces them to confront parts of themselves they have avoided. There may be internal battles you cannot see, old wounds, fear of vulnerability, fear of losing control, fear of allowing someone to see them completely. For some people, love does not feel dangerous because of the other person. It feels dangerous because of what love reveals about themselves. This is where many meaningful connections experience challenges. One person may awaken faster. One person may be ready to face the truth, while the other person struggles with the reflection being placed before them. You became that reflection. Through you, they saw emotions they had buried, needs they ignored, parts of themselves they were afraid to acknowledge. And sometimes people do not reject another person. Sometimes they retreat because they are confronted with themselves. Jung described this idea when he explained that until we bring unconscious patterns into awareness, they continue directing our lives while we mistake them for destiny. Right now, they may still be influenced by fears and patterns they have not fully understood. But once awareness begins, it cannot be erased. You cannot forget a truth you have finally recognized. You entered their life to awaken something: emotional honesty, tenderness, authenticity, and a deeper understanding of connection. When someone touches a hidden part of our being, that experience does not simply disappear. It remains. It changes us. It waits. The universe does not create every encounter without meaning. If this connection was meant to disappear without impact, it would have faded naturally. But instead, it continues appearing through memories, dreams, emotions, unexpected reminders, and moments when their name or your shared experiences return to your awareness. These moments are not necessarily asking you to chase. They are asking you to become aware. There is a difference between forcing something to happen and allowing something to unfold naturally when the timing is right. Your exhaustion is understandable. Carrying deep emotions without clear answers can be painful. But hope does not always mean weakness. Sometimes hope is simply the quiet voice of intuition. And intuition does not demand attention. It patiently waits. Something may be shifting beneath the surface. Not everything changes externally before it changes internally. Resistance begins to weaken. Fear begins to lose its power. A heart that once protected itself begins to soften when it can no longer ignore what it truly feels. And perhaps, somewhere within them, the idea of losing you completely has started to feel heavier than the fear of trying again. This does not mean you should pause your life or wait without purpose. It means you continue growing while allowing life to reveal what is meant to be revealed. This may not be the ending of the story. It may simply be the quiet period before deeper understanding. Jung also spoke about patience as a pathway toward joy. Not the kind of patience where you abandon yourself or remain trapped in uncertainty, but the kind rooted in trust, self-respect, and inner stability. Real connections do not need to be forced. They need space to reveal their truth. As you absorb this message, notice what creates peace within you. Truth does not need to fight for your attention. It simply resonates. If your heart feels calmer rather than more fearful, pay attention to that feeling. The connection may not be disappearing, it may be transforming. And during this transformation, you are changing too. The mind often struggles with uncertainty because it wants answers, labels, and timelines. But the soul develops through experiences that cannot always be explained immediately. Uncertainty becomes a place of growth. It removes illusions. It releases unhealthy attachments. It separates fear from genuine love until only what is authentic remains. What you are experiencing is not simply waiting, it is becoming. Since this connection entered your life, you may have noticed that you are no longer the same person you once were. Your awareness has expanded. Your standards have changed. You recognize what emotional honesty feels like, and you no longer feel satisfied with connections that lack depth or presence. That transformation itself carries meaning. Sometimes a person enters our life not only to stay, but to awaken us. They reveal what our heart is capable of feeling. They show us the kind of connection we truly desire. And once that awakening happens, we cannot return to the person we were before. This is why releasing them may feel so difficult. Perhaps you are not only holding on to them, perhaps you are holding on to the version of yourself that awakened through knowing them. You discovered your ability to love deeply. You discovered your emotional strength. You discovered a level of openness you may not have known existed. And the soul does not easily abandon its own expansion. There may still be moments when doubt appears. You may ask yourself, if this connection was real, why was it so difficult? If they truly cared, why did they leave? These questions are natural. They come from the logical mind trying to understand something that does not always follow logical patterns. Deep connections rarely move in straight lines. They move through cycles. They return to the same lessons again and again, asking both people to grow, heal, and become more honest with themselves. The challenge here may not be the absence of feeling. The challenge may be readiness. You may be prepared to open your heart while they are still learning how to face their own fears. And readiness cannot be given to someone else. It must be discovered internally, through healing, through self-awareness, through choosing vulnerability instead of protection. There may be moments when they almost reach out. Moments when they think about sending a message. Moments when they imagine what they would say if they allowed themselves to be honest. But fear interrupts. Fear of rejection, fear of not being enough, fear of reopening emotions they do not yet know how to handle. So they remain silent, hoping time will solve what only courage can resolve. Yet unresolved emotions have a way of returning. They appear in quiet nights, early mornings, empty conversations, and moments when everything feels less meaningful compared to what they once experienced. And this may be why reminders continue appearing in your own life as well. Not to keep you trapped, but to remind you to remain centered. A song may suddenly describe your story. A dream may bring a conversation you never had. A memory may appear when you least expect it. These moments invite reflection. They remind you that some connections leave an imprint far beyond the moment they began. A memory may suddenly appear, but this time, it does not bring the same pain. Instead of pulling you backward, it brings understanding. It reminds you to trust the journey without losing yourself in it. Trust does not mean waiting in suffering or putting your life on hold for someone else. True trust means remaining connected to yourself while allowing what is truly meant for you to return naturally. Something within you is changing. You are learning the difference between attachment and alignment. Attachment says, I need this person to feel complete. Alignment says, I am already whole, and what belongs with me will meet me in truth. This shift changes everything. When you stop desperately searching for answers and begin becoming the answer within yourself, the energy of the connection transforms. The pressure fades, the anxiety weakens. The bond is no longer controlled by fear, but by inner stability. And only from that place can something real be rebuilt. If someone returns while you are still questioning your worth or abandoning yourself to keep them close, the same patterns will repeat. But if they return while you are grounded, confident, and emotionally whole, a different kind of connection becomes possible. One built on mutual choice, honesty, and respect. You are not being delayed because life is punishing you. You are being prepared. Prepared to receive love without losing your identity. Prepared to recognize effort instead of chasing potential. Prepared to meet someone as a person who knows their value. And this transformation is felt by others, even when they cannot explain it. They sense that you are no longer reaching for them from a place of need. They sense that your energy has returned to yourself, and that changes the dynamic. When someone is always chasing, the other person never has to truly choose. But when you step back into your own power, the connection becomes something that must be consciously valued. This is where fear begins to change. The possibility of losing you becomes real, and reality often breaks through avoidance. Memories soften, regret appears. The desire to repair what was damaged begins to grow. You may experience moments where you feel completely calm, followed by unexpected waves of emotion. This is not confusion, it is balance forming. You are learning to honor the connection without allowing it to control your life. You are allowing it to exist without forcing the outcome. The path between two people is not always blocked. Sometimes, it is simply being cleared. Old misunderstandings begin to fade. Hidden fears come to the surface. Patterns that created distance begin revealing themselves. Right now, you do not need to chase, convince, or prove anything. Your purpose is to stay present. Stay honest with yourself. Stay open without abandoning your peace. As this transformation continues, longing begins to become understanding. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" And you begin asking, "What is this teaching me?" That is the moment pain begins turning into wisdom. This connection was never meant to consume you. It was meant to reveal you, to show you where you ignored your own needs, to teach you the difference between intensity and intimacy, attachment and devotion, fantasy and truth. And as these lessons become part of you, suffering loses its power. Your thoughts about them begin changing. They no longer arrive with desperation. They arrive with acceptance. You can think about them while still remaining connected to yourself. That is emotional growth. When one person in a meaningful connection changes internally, the entire dynamic shifts. When you stop chasing answers outside yourself and begin living from inner clarity, everything begins to reorganize. Your energy no longer reaches them as anxiety. It reaches them as calm strength, as self-respect, as a presence that cannot be controlled through distance. Silence no longer automatically means rejection. Sometimes silence is reflection. Sometimes it is someone being forced to confront themselves. They may be facing the very patterns that once protected them: avoidance, emotional distance, the need for control. These patterns may have helped them survive, but they cannot create true intimacy. There may still be moments when they want to reach out and then hesitate. Moments when their heart moves forward while fear pulls them back. But that struggle is not about you. It is about their relationship with themselves. Moving closer requires vulnerability. Staying away requires accepting the possibility of losing something meaningful. And eventually, that inner conflict demands honesty. Remember this: the future of this connection is not determined by how intensely you hope. It is shaped by how deeply you honor yourself. The more you stand in your truth, the clearer your path becomes. Whether that path leads to reunion or release, you will no longer lose yourself, because you have returned to your own center. Some connections carry unfinished meaning, not because they require endless suffering, but because there are truths that still need to be acknowledged. Words left unspoken. Feelings left unexplored. Choices delayed because fear was stronger than courage. As Jung said, "Where your fear is, there your task is." Your lesson is to trust yourself without abandoning yourself. Their lesson is to open their heart without hiding behind fear. Both journeys require courage. Over time, you may notice that reunion no longer feels like the only thing you desire. Not because you stopped caring, because you grew. You no longer want confusion disguised as destiny. You want honesty, consistency, presence, effort. True connections are not meant to trap you in pain. They are meant to guide you back to yourself. And from that place of self-respect, two people can meet in a healthier way. If communication returns, let it happen naturally. Do not rush what needs time to become authentic. A meaningful reconnection cannot be forced. And if fear appears within you, remember that fear is often a memory of past pain, not a prediction of the future. You are not the same person you were before. You are stronger, more aware, more grounded. Your worth does not depend on someone choosing you. It exists because you exist. The universe responds not only to desire, but to embodiment. And you are embodying something new: self-respect, emotional freedom, quiet confidence. Notice how you feel when you think of them now. Less urgency, less heaviness, more peace. That is alignment. What comes next is not about waiting. It is about allowing. Allowing life to reveal what is real. Allowing love to meet you where you stand now, not where you once begged to be accepted. This connection may rise into truth, or it may become a lesson that transforms you. Either way, you remain whole. Because the greatest gift was never only the possibility of reunion, it was the return to yourself. A deeper trust in your own voice, a clearer understanding of your worth. You now know the difference between attraction and alignment, between longing and truth, between emotional intensity and genuine love. And that awareness cannot be taken away from you. You now understand the difference between waiting in fear and honoring timing without betraying yourself. This is not the end of your journey with love, it is the refinement of it. Whatever comes next will meet you at the level you have grown into. You may begin feeling a quiet confidence rising within you, a feeling that says, "I will be okay, no matter what happens." That is not emotional detachment, that is wholeness. That is the moment the soul stops begging for love and starts allowing it. Notice how your life begins expanding again. New ideas, new energy, new inspiration. This is not you forgetting the connection. It is proof that you are no longer trapped inside it. You are walking beside it, not beneath it. And that changes everything. Because love that is truly meant for you will never require you to disappear. Real love recognizes you when you are standing fully as yourself. Something is preparing to unfold. Not through force, not through urgency, but through honesty and readiness. Stay open, stay grounded, stay aware. The next chapter will reveal itself. There comes a moment when the soul stops asking, "What will happen?" and begins understanding, "Why did everything happen this way?" That moment is quiet. It does not arrive with chaos or dramatic signs. It arrives as peace, a deep certainty within you that no longer needs constant reassurance. You have moved from confusion into clarity. You are no longer attached to one specific outcome. You are aligned with truth, and truth moves according to its own rhythm. You now see that the delays were not punishments. They were preparation. If this connection had unfolded before both of you were ready, old wounds and unhealed patterns would have destroyed what was trying to grow. Love needs maturity. Connection needs emotional awareness. You are learning how to love without losing yourself, how to trust your intuition while still using wisdom, how to remain open without abandoning your own needs. Those lessons were necessary. And now something has changed. You are no longer reaching for them from a place of emptiness. You are standing in your own center. That shift changes the entire dynamic. Because lasting love is not created through chasing. It is created through alignment. They may feel this change. The fears that once controlled them begin losing their power. The excuses that protected them from vulnerability begin to weaken. Distance no longer feels as safe as it once did. Silence begins feeling less like protection and more like loss. And sometimes, the awareness of losing something meaningful awakens courage. They may begin realizing that what they experienced with you was not ordinary. It was not only attraction, it was recognition. And true recognition leaves a permanent mark. If they return, it will not be from loneliness or temporary emotion. It will need to come from growth, from honesty, from a willingness to show up differently. And if they need more time, that does not erase what has already changed. Seeds grow beneath the surface before they become visible. You are no longer waiting for them to choose you. You are choosing yourself. And that is what creates the possibility of a healthier connection. Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Both of you are being asked to face what once controlled your actions. The fears, the defenses, the patterns that prevented deeper intimacy. Real growth cannot be rushed or performed. It must be lived. And if this connection returns, you will recognize the difference. Not because of words alone, but because of consistency, presence, effort. You will not have to question where you stand. You will feel the truth. And if life leads you toward a different outcome, you will still remain whole. Because the greatest purpose of this connection was never to leave you empty. It was to awaken your depth, your truth, your self-respect. Anything that returns now must return by choice, not obligation. The universe is not asking you to wait endlessly. It is asking you to trust what has already been built within you. Love that is aligned with you will never require you to abandon yourself. What is real does not disappear simply because you stop chasing it. You have moved from fear of loss into a state of self-worth. And true timing is not controlled by a clock. It is created through readiness. Notice the peace you feel when you imagine either outcome. That peace is your sign that you have returned to yourself. You no longer need one person to complete you. You are already whole. Any relationship that enters your life must rise to meet that wholeness. That is true balance. That is love without illusion. Whatever comes next will not drain you. It will not confuse you. It will not make you smaller. It will be rooted in truth. And truth is the highest expression of love. If this message reached you at the right moment, perhaps your own inner wisdom already knows the answer you have been searching for. Is this a time to release? Or is this a time to trust? The path that brings peace is the one aligned with your soul. Share your thoughts below. Your words may become the message another person needs to hear.